to set this up and then we'll continue there. All right, so to clarify something that occurred a while back, I think it's been like almost a month now since we did this. Me and Kyle were doing a debate between Mundus and Urizen. Like, what if Urizen showed up to like take over the demon world and actually usurp the other demon kings? Now, Kyle didn't want to continue that debate because he just knew he would lose, unfortunately. And Mangler was like, hey, how about instead of debating it, we'll just talk about it, like civilized people.
We were supposed to the first fucking time. You guys started before I got there.
To be fair, the first idea was I was just going to do versus matchups by myself, but then I was like, let me get the other guys involved since they know DMC as well as I do. And now we are here. Alright, so we did cover the minor demons last time. I don't remember what the score was, but it doesn't really matter depending on where these sort of end up. So now we currently have the generals of Mundus versus Urizen's generals or higher-ups.
Cream of the crop.
I mean, if you want to call them that, sure. And then we also have, obviously, the big boys themselves. Now, I believe the version we were using last time was the Mundus of DMC1 because there is technically now a difference between Mundus from DMC1 and Prime Mundus.
There's a very large difference. So, for the sake of the format of this video, we're doing this. I mean, since we're doing like this second part with like the generals and stuff, like it wouldn't really matter if we were using Prime Mundus, and it wouldn't necessarily be a nerf. He would get like 1 or 2 extra abilities, but there's a lot of things that he wouldn't get access to because like stuff like the beast heads couldn't be included because that's not like a subordinate of his. That's not like, even though it's something he made, it's not like something he employs. It's like an artifact he created.
If anything, the beast heads will show up later on in like a separate like humanity versus Urizen video when like
Humanity versus Demon World's Misfits, featuring the beast heads.
So yeah, that's currently more or less the situation we ended up on. So I guess let's go ahead and well, so which one do you want to start with? Because I know you actually did give us matchups last time. Because me and Kyle do have a recorded. I remember Griffin and Cerberus is recorded actually on my PC still.
I don't remember what order, because the thing is I chose them randomly, and I don't know if it really meant, like, some of them do actually kind of change, because this is all under the assumption that this is like equalized stats. The only thing that's not changing is like their hacks. So I mean, we do like characters of like a similar archetype maybe, because most of the characters in Mundus' faction, as far as like his generals, actually have a similar conjoining archetype with the one in Urizen's.
Do you want to try doing that, Mangler?
Yeah. So both of them have airborne fighters. So basically this would be what is it? Griffin versus Artemis. They both have like, I was gonna say mages, but technically you can't really count Nightmare as a mage. You just kind of count him as like a bioweapon. He's just kind of there. He's supposed to be the wild card. They have like beast type enemies with like Phantom and Surfers, and then they got like knights between like Neto Angelo and Cavalier.
So you just want to split up like that then?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so to be fair, well, okay, so are we going to equalize the generals too, or are we fine splitting them up?
Sorry, my sister was asking me something. What were you saying?
Wow, so unprofessional.
Obviously, we're equalizing the generals, because if we didn't, then Urizen's faction would sweep everybody here. Actually, scratch that. One general in Urizen's faction would sweep everyone here.
You're referring just to, my boy King Cerberus, right?
I mean, Artemis could do it. Cavalier could certainly do it.
You think Artemis beats every general in DMC1?
I mean, Nero from DMC5 is over there trying pretty hard to dodge those lasers.
I mean, but that's like a
No,
weak. That's like a weakened Nero, though.
that Nero is still like stronger than like fucking. Even if he's like weakened, he'd still be like stronger than like the one that fought Burial. Who was already like. We're not gonna get into this like non-equalized. We came here to discuss equalized. We're gonna be here all night.
Okay, fine. I guess if people ask for a more non-equalized like explanation, we can record that at a later point. All right, so if we're equalizing it, then like there's no real contest here. Griffin's gonna fucking shit stomp Artemis.
Now, hang on. Artemis might be able to pull something out of her sleeve.
Are you serious? Like, you just got? Didn't you just get through playing DMC1 a few days ago, like a month ago? You of all people should be aware of what Griffin's got up his sleeve.
I know he has the electric laser birds.
That's the only thing you remember, and that literally solos her entire arsenal.
He can control gravity and all types of like.
Well, I wouldn't want to say he controls gravity because he puts a pillar under you and knocks you up.
It's like a wind vacuum thing where he can
it's like a pillar, yeah. Because I know what you're talking about, but the death scissors can do it too.
But his is specifically special because he can shoot it at you like a projectile. He doesn't just bind it around your position.
That is true.
I'm sure Artemis is.
Dude, Artemis has such a bad fucking kit, dude. Like I'm gonna. So here's the problem. Most of her best options either require a charge up over time, like the big center explosion,
or grounded.
I've never actually seen the center explosion happen. I've always stopped her before that. I've never actually seen what it looks like.
I was just trying to play a little bit of devil's advocate and see if she could maybe ground. But then I remember that her best ability, which is the grounded laser turrets, are grounded, so they're completely useless against airborne targets.
This is literally just okay. So clearly, Griffin just counters Artemis in every capacity.
Like she's designed to be like a flying type character that's meant to deal with ground opponents, whereas Griffin is a flying type character meant to deal with everybody.
Okay, so clearly Artemis is not winning that fight in any capacity. So like, I guess like, we'll keep it on Artemis for now. How do you think Artemis would have done like against like Phantom next? Because Phantom like has very bad ranged options, but but like if it's in an enclosed room like DMC5's arena, I think most of his range options would cover Artemis still.
It depends, because if he's given his lava pillars are extremely fast. And he doesn't really have to commit to any sort of movement. He can just kind of put his head in the ground, and he can just start shooting up the souls of the dead, up your body. I mean,
she really does not have a good kit when you
talk about like, does Artemis have any notable fire resistance feats?
She can tank blows from the fucking Red Queen, right?
Actually, yeah, no. Well, hang on a minute. Depending on how we argue this, that might guarantee that might give her the win. So let me explain this. For those of you who are not aware, Deadly Fortune actually elaborates on how hot Red Queen's flames are. So the Red Queen that shows up in DMC4 in the original translation to Deadly Fortune. Now we have the second one, so we have both of them. Even in the original, it just says that they're only slightly inferior to Burial's flames, who's the king of the fire hell. So they're only slightly hotter than the hottest source of hellfire. Okay. Then, when they're max acted, they are able to equal or exceed Burial's flames. Now, it's worth noting that Nero, when he improved this weapon in DMC4, he improved it over the base version that he used in the Midas Forest, which was already heavily modified to a point where the Order Sword members couldn't use it. So every time he gets the Red Queen, every time we see him with it in the story, it's already heavily modified beyond its previous iteration. So the heat of the flames and the propulsion system doesn't compare with the newer versions.
So you were thinking that like Artemis would have enough like heat resistance to withstand most of Phantom's range options?
Heat resistance would be disgusting. Phantom's gonna show up with the lava pillars and gonna be like, "I got you," and Artemis will just like, I don't know, like sing him to the opera house.
Well, okay,
Or
so
he'll
then,
down
so
waves.
that means all of Phantom's range options are gone, but like he still has his close range options. So, how mobile do you think Artemis actually? How mobile Artemis in the cutscene? Because she just stands still during the boss fight
She,
consistently.
she's very mobile in the cutscene. She flies around a lot and ranges and zones. The only time she goes down to the ground is when she's like either she gets hit down for an attack or she comes in for a lunge, but she always does it on like a diving like a
Like in an attack motion.
like Virgil's airplane simulator where he just kind of flies over.
Uh, I think if like Phantom in close range, I think Phantom could probably be Artemis since Artemis's close range options are next to nothing. But if Artemis just stays back, she'd probably just be able to zone and beat Phantom.
Phantom has shown that like he's not incredibly mobile in turning around against enemies that are as fast as he is because he technically has to move all of his legs just to shift. I know this is like a weird argument to use, but he is technically a lava spider.
Are
So
you sure about that?
he's got to move like all of his legs to turn to the left.
Yes.
And if he's fighting an enemy who can literally spin circles around him, I don't think that's gonna bode very well for him. Especially when his only aerial attack. Well, actually, hang on a minute. So he technically does have ranged options in his lava meters
Well, so
that
the
he could
problem is that
fire.
yeah, but like if you can resist the heat of the Red Queen, then that's not going to
Uh,
do much to you.
Well, so they would technically still have the same AOE or the same damage. They just wouldn't like burn you.
So you think like
But,
I
well,
mean
so
like
so it's kind of even if I give him that, it's just like okay, we gotten rid of the side effects, but can you hit Artemis?
I was gonna say, don't the little projectiles thing protect her too, or do they just like attack the individual? Because we also got to keep in mind that he's gonna be being poked down by those little fucking.
They attack the individual, but it's also worth noting like the difference between Artemis's powers and his is that Artemis's powers track, his don't. Like he can't track you. Well, there's not that he can't, he just doesn't.
I
He
was gonna
doesn't
say,
track
are
you.
you sure the meteor is not tracking?
No, the meters don't track.
They don't.
They don't track.
You are absolutely certain on that.
I'm absolutely certain they don't track.
All right, very well. The Mangler has spoken.
Yeah, so I think Phantom under certain contexts could win, especially with his like lava scorpion thing and like the flame pillars. Like if DMZ want to show us anything, it's that like you just get destroyed in that game when you're in close quarters. Some of these bosses have a really big advantage state in a CQC, but once you start giving them big arenas, that just starts giving them like a lot of disadvantages.
If we're going to assume that like the meteors would just hurt them the exact same, then yeah, then like at that point there's nothing well no Artemis yeah no I think I'm still gonna be talking.
Because what does Artemis lose if we make him resistant to light? Nothing. What does Phantom lose if we make her resistant to fire? Literally like the effects of Hellfire. That's a pretty big disadvantage. Or it's not like demons have a natural weakness to light in DMC or holy or divine things.
Well,
So,
I mean, it's basically it's like kind of like Dragon Ball Energy Blast versus fucking fire attacks.
yeah, but like imagine if I took one of your side effects and I just took them away. Like that's gonna be a little bit more unfair than if like my side effects don't do
I'm gonna be
anything.
honest. The main difference here that like kind of sells me that like fucking Artemis would win is just because Phantom's not that mobile. If he was more mobile, I think he would probably still win, even
I just say
without.
mobility, better tracking projectiles. She's constantly in the air, which he can only engage with that by jumping up in the air and body slamming, which she's not gonna get hit by that. She's not stupid. Um,
Are you sure about that?
Phantom, on the other hand, um, but yeah, I think Phantom probably doesn't win that most times out of 10. Like I'd say 7 or 8 times out of 10, he probably loses.
Okay, so the
Because,
next
like, yeah, go ahead.
I'll say the next general on the list is gonna be Nightmare.
Okay, so Nightmare is kind of weird because Nightmare has sort of weird projectiles that can fire into the air that are not exactly tracking, but like it's so he can fight you in a large area. He just has to get you in the Nightmare world. So the question is, What would happen if he grabbed Artemis and sent her in the nightmare thing? Because Artemis is technically like a reverse engineered like devil arm. Um,
Well, I think at this point I have to ask the question, like, the way you get stuck in a nightmare world is you have to be on the ground for it to, like, fucking stick you there.
yeah, he has to grab you with the nightmare net, basically.
Yeah, so I think at this point, like, if we're being 100% honest, like, there's a good chance that Nightmare will never even get Artemis into the nightmare world.
Mm, I think Nightmare probably realistically would just because like given Nightmare's like body and the fact that he can only really be damaged by the core, Artemis is gonna start realizing that she's gonna have to hit him in the back, and depending on
Oh,
how well she does it, she might get tagged by a lot of his projectiles.
I was gonna say, like, Nightmare, despite being stationary, does have access to some of the most absurd projectiles and tracking items in the game. Because let's not
He
forget
has
that giant bone
on
fucking
him.
thing.
He has ice, like he has little like black slimy like ice things that how can I say this like these little black demonic like
You mean
these
you
demonic
mean the
like
little fucking
eels.
like yeah, the little eels he throws at you? But
Yeah,
like
that
I'm
he
talking
throws
about the
at you.
giant spine he spins
Oh,
around.
no, 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 no. This is one of the things. Like those eels can like freeze you. They can. He can also shoot rotating turrets around his body that like protect him and are like on autopilot. His core will automatically defend itself and will spray you with like that black goop that basically manifests itself as any sort of like spike. Oh, and he can also summon a giant homing boomerang that can take out aerial enemies. It can spin and rotate around his body, so he could just keep doing that. So he could just camp in a corner with like his little like core and just keep doing that, or he could fire his giant laser. Because I'm fairly certain if Artemis tries to challenge him, I don't know if this would happen, but if Artemis does try to challenge him to like a Dragon Ball Z esque contest, laser to laser, he's probably gonna win that. Probably.
I mean, even if he doesn't, like the core's not there at the laser, so like he's probably gonna survive the attack, even if it like blasts him.
Well, there's just so many ways for him to defend himself,
He's
and
also
if
one
his
of the most
core ever
like absurdly survivable demons that we know of.
Yeah, there's also the fact that like all he has to do is get Artemis on the ground once, and then he can like BFR her into the dimension and just force her to fight her trauma, which in this case is fighting Nero.
Well, actually, it'll probably be Arkham.
But why would it be Arkham?
Because it's Lady trapped inside Artemis. Artemis by itself would have no trauma unless it's
No, no,
Dante
no,
throwing
no.
her in the trash.
Actually, it'd be Arkham and Nero together.
No, 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 no. It would be Dante selling her for $5.
It'd be one of those
There's a
three.
lot of scenarios that Artemis probably went through.
There's a lot of scenarios where Artemis is gonna wake up in the nightmare realm and just start fighting her trauma, and I don't see that turning out very well for her.
Um, yeah, if Nightmare can get Artemis on the ground, because Nightmare just has so much more options, ironically enough, that Artemis is, even with the mobility advantage, like, there are more options for Nightmare to beat Artemis than there are for Artemis to outlast Nightmare long enough to figure out how to beat
It's
it.
kind of like the Phantom situation, except we took away some of Phantom's like close quarters options and just gave him an ultimate defense with like all of his projectiles specifically focused around that defense, or like an all-encompassing defend at all costs situation. Like so, Nightmare is really really difficult to deal with in a situation where your strengths are just flying around and shooting projectiles against a guy that's armored to the teeth around his entire body.
Yeah, definitely not, definitely not the best matchup for Artemis there. And the last one, of course, is Neto Angelo.
Okay, so this one's interesting because Nello Angelo has the fireballs,
The
which are
fireballs.
the fireballs,
The
which are
fireballs.
he can shoot those at you. he has his teleportation, which he can constantly use to reposition himself, get out of the way of any sort of like projectile, any problem. Um, he's just got Virgil's muscle memory, so like, I mean, all he has to do is like get close to Artemis, and then it's combo city with his Y-hander. He also has summon swords because we're using like Neto Angelo, so um, if it comes down to it, he'll start spamming heavy rain swords, blistering swords, storm swords,
I mean, he
um,
could have literally just had default summon swords, and I would have given it to him anyways, because that's gonna protect him
spiral
against.
swords,
That's
or
gonna protect him against
the
all the
8
projectiles.
different variations of all those techniques that he also has, autopilot and manual versions. Because a lot of people don't seem to understand this, but DMC1 and DMC3 shows that Virgil does not have to manually activate the swords. Like once he sets them on a flight path, he can start attacking you irrespective of where they're functioning. So he no longer has to control them like a puppet. Like he could just be like flight mode and then just start comboing you to death while the summon swords are running through your body,
I mean,
while they're like tracking and finding, seeking you out. And like he can send them to your position. He can teleport to them to your position, and he can teleport to the swords. So no matter where Artemis goes, he's gonna have summon swords on her butt every 5 seconds. She's not gonna have a moment of like freedom.
yeah, I was gonna say like really, you just had to say something. You didn't even have to mention everything else. You could have just said summon sword, and I think everyone would have like understood what was going to happen here.
You know. So
Uh,
yeah, so I think like other than Phantom, she, which even in some close quarter situations they might be able to win. Like other than Phantom, she pretty much loses to most of Mundus's generals in the equalized scenario.
okay, so the next one on the table is well, I guess which one do you want to talk about next? Since I guess we're doing like the Usurper's forces versus
Let's get
Mundus's.
the hard one out of the way. King Cerberus.
Oh, the really the hard one.
All
um,
right. So
piece of shit
I
really out of
guess
all of them.
we'll go with Griffin then. Same order. So um this is an equalized scenario, but like
King Cerberus has way
Griffin
more options, in my personal
so
opinion.
so Griffin, here's the problem. I know I've seen some people mention this when I've mentioned this discussion before, that like they refer to the art book in DMC5 to say that King Cerberus's ice is only absolute zero because there's a statement of that. Let me be the first to clear that up. That is not true. He has direct statements that his ice can freeze your soul, and he can freeze the Qliphoth to make it basically reach its true, the Qliphoth fruit, for it to become like the true form of the Qliphoth.
Just to clarify, we mentioned this in the last video a few months back, me and Kyle. But the frost ice is already turning the air around them below absolute zero. It would not make sense for such a stronger demon to not have ice at least comparable to theirs, which would
Like
be below absolute
I would
zero.
argue even the base Cerberus would have ice well beyond absolute zero because he has statements that his ice is chilled to the core, which would be the soul. So it would make no sense. Like I'm completely fine with the assertion that Griffin could survive absolute zero temperatures. That's fine to me. The idea that he could survive like ice freezing your soul, or that he would be able to like rather that he would be able to like just not get frozen by it. When like even like weaker versions of Dante could. I don't, especially when
No,
he's fighting King Cerberus. Like I
they
don't.
no like all of the elemental effects here are going to affect Griffin. He has no resistance to any of them except maybe
Let's let's
lightning, but even then he
let's
doesn't.
let's talk about range. So Cerberus, I don't know about like the context of like him affecting the Qliphoth, but Cerberus's boss arena is kind of a pretty big indicator of the range that he has
Well,
and how big he is.
let's clarify a little bit too that like his ice affected floors above his arena. Remember, like you're in a
Oh,
frozen.
I'm aware. I'm aware. I've played that mission so many times to S rank it, and I fucking hate going down there. When you when you get down there to fight, once you get past the Hell Judeca, at like the second to bottom floor, the entire room is already covered in ice. And you have to drop 2 more floors, and then you drop past the cavern, and then into a long fall, and then you're in his chamber.
Yeah, so there's
He
no
goes
there's
up,
no
it's all-
range Griffin's gonna have, or at least from what we've seen of the way they fight effectively, there's no range Griffin's gonna escape those elements.
Griffin is gonna have to go to the clouds and just kind of chill up there and drop like Zeus lightning bolts on him, which I don't know how effective that's gonna be. It's also worth noting, Zim technically might not know this. Little secret. I went through DMC5 again to get like in-game dialogue. King Cerberus actually has a specific line that he mentions about his powers when he switches back to ice for the last time, where he says something to the effect of hang on one sec.
I was actually gonna say I'm still kind of annoyed no one has gone out of their way to get all the actual dialogue for DMC5.
Actually, I've gotten most of it. I haven't gotten the chance to post it yet. But Cerberus has a specific statement, or King Cerberus, my bad. He has a specific statement involving what he considers like how valuable he considers like certain elements to be.
All right.
Hang on, it's almost there. God, this thing is taking forever to load up.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, in the meantime.
I think this is it. Go ahead and say your piece.
In the meantime, like, so Griffin just has like no resistances whatsoever. He's got like no resistances whatsoever. He's got no options. This is really just not a fight where Griffin wins, which is actually the same conclusion me and Kyle reached a while back when we did it.
What he says specifically is that he transforms into it, and he says the power of ice reigns supreme. So he specifically mentions that the ice is considered more formidable and like more powerful than the thunder or fire, which would be kind of consistent with what we know because ice-based abilities are significantly more haxed in DMC than fire ones or lightning ones are.
I think that's kind of like in general. If you can control ice, you're usually superior to the other elements because ice just like is a better element than like most.
I mean, lightning does have some decent hacks in DMC. Most of them come from Griffin specifically, or like either augmentation, flight, weather elements, or like some stuff like that. Whereas fire is just like I burn you, but ice can be like, I mean, Cerberus's ice can create invulnerable barriers. It can freeze your soul. Like that is already like invulnerability and like freezing the soul.
Clearly, Cerberus has a favorite because one's just more useful than the others.
There's also the problem that he states like even Burial trembles before his flames. Burial, as we said, is the king of the fire hell. So like his fire is gonna roast Griffin like a Thanksgiving turkey. Like
and that's not even on top of the fact that he claims his lightning is the strongest in the underworld. Now granted, this is at a point when most other relevant lightning users have probably already been killed, but like
it just means like any of Griffin's lightning abilities are not going to have like specific status conditions or anything on him. He's going to be able to tank them. He's going to be able to trade blows with him and be completely fine.
I think we can just safely acknowledge that Griffin is probably the strongest outside of Demon Kings in his respective elements that he possesses. I think that's like fair to say with the consistency of his statements. So with that in mind, I don't even think it's worth talking about Phantom.
Yeah. It's just like Eye of Fire, and I'm like, okay. Remember Burial? Yeah, like I could just like
you can go now, Phantom. You're not needed for this part.
I'm gonna be honest. Anyone who's rooting for Phantom, I'm sorry, he's gonna get sweeped in all of these. He has the worst arsenal.
He might have a chance against probably the Angelo, maybe, but we'll talk about that. Well, actually, we'll talk about those when we get to it. But definitely, he's certainly the weak link of the generals, if there had to be one.
He's the one that dies first. Why are we?
To be fair, he kills himself canonically because he breaks the glass, so Dante never actually kills him.
That's not how I ended the fight.
Well, no, so yeah, so I don't know if you know this, but he can break the glass
Yeah,
underneath.
no, he
Yeah,
can. You have to force him to jump on it,
that
and
seems
he'll
to be the
break it.
canonical version, given that the glass doesn't break in any other way logically.
Well, if you beat him normally, he still breaks through the glass anyway.
No, 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 no,
So
no, no. So the cutscene just plays. He like this isn't like DMC5 when we get a gameplay section of Virgil slapping Dante across the Clifa. You just randomly see him fall, even though you killed him somewhere else on the roof.
no, no, I mean like regardless of how he dies, whether he breaks the glass in game or you kill him, he will fall and get impaled through the
No, no,
glass.
I know, I've seen it. Okay,
Okay,
so yeah, we can just skip him.
so Nightmare. Um, so
I'm gonna be
Nightmare's a little
honest.
interesting. Wait, what?
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I think I'm still gonna hand it over to King Cerberus.
What about the armor?
What about the armor? So the problem with Nightmare, more specifically in this fight, is all of Nightmare's offensive options can be countered by King Cerberus' abilities.
Even the turrets?
The turrets might be the only thing, but those can be destroyed by ranged attacks. You can actually destroy those in game.
Well, so I guess this depends on like, because the problem is that Nightmare's armor is going to mean that he's going to have to like approach him to get to the core. So if this is true, he's going to have to switch to fire mode. Because Cerberus, whenever he attacks,
Well, actually,
always approaches in fire mode
well,
specifically.
but the ice mode can drop the icicles on you, which can hit him from above, which will hit the cores.
I mean, Nightmare could just mold into the ground and just
Then
like,
he just gets electrocuted.
I mean, Cerberus is going to have to switch.
Also, Nightmare would never be able to mold into the ground because Cerberus is bright in every version except Ice. So there's not a point where Nightmare is going to be able to like not mold into the ground. Because all the switches do is just turn on the fucking lights.
Wait, what do you mean switch?
Well, you know how like Nightmare stays in the ground until you hit some switches in the boss battle in order for him to like get the fuck out of his fucking puddle?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it just basically just turns on the lights.
I mean, so were we not going to give him the ability to like do that at all?
It would only really work. It would only really appear against the ice form, and that's assuming Nightmare can't be frozen.
I mean, that armor though.
That's all he has.
I know, that's the point. If he can't get past the armor, then like.
Well, so the problem is that Nightmare himself opens his armor up to show off his core when he's doing certain attacks. So there's always going to be openings as long as you can stay alive long enough. And unlike with fucking what's her face, fucking Artemis, King Cerberus has options.
I mean, the tracking lightning projectiles are just going to hit the front of his body. The fire, well, he doesn't actually use any light fire abilities. He just runs at you while his body's cloaked in fire.
Oh,
the ice hits you from above, but all he has to do is just not attack while it's happening and just camp him out, and he'll be fine.
I mean, but that would imply Nightmare has intelligence, but Nightmare doesn't have intelligence. Remember, Nightmare's will has been restricted completely, remember? So it wouldn't be able to...
Visions of V with like a word.
That's when V bestows his name back, Mangler.
And then before that, he shows him stuff about Dante.
That's a different Nightmare, Mangler. You can't scale it back to the weapon.
What, is Virgil's interpretation not accurate?
It's not. Griffin can talk in a fucking swearing little fucking teenager voice.
Maybe we just weren't thinking about the same Griffin here. We're clearly playing a different DMC one. Must have been playing the abridged version.
Yeah, so unfortunately, you can't argue Nightmare using like reasoning and intelligence because Visions of V's backstory for Nightmare confirms he has no will of his own. So any logical, like, okay, if he had if we're talking DMC5 Nightmare, yeah, he'd probably beat the shit out of King Cerberus. You know, if he lands in the right battlefield anyway. But not this Nightmare.
Was he? Because he's got like reverse doppelganger mechanics on his like wall stuff. Doppelganger's just like, I just need 1 inch of light and I am invincible and can do whatever the fuck. Nightmare's like, if there is 1 inch of light, I am completely vulnerable.
I'm sorry, Mangler. I don't write the rules. I just play the games. Well, I don't write the rules officially.
I don't make them. I just explain them.
Yeah, no. So Nightmare would probably lose since King Cerberus has options to everything he like can throw at him.
Right.
And the
The
last
Nello.
one is, of course, the most important one of all of these is going to be Neto Angelo every time.
So
King
um,
Cerberus.
I think Fire Cerberus is not going to do anything.
You don't think
I
so?
think he's just yeah, because he doesn't like the problem is this is one of the disappointments like gameplay wise that I have with Fire Cerberus. He doesn't do anything. He's just like feel my flames, and then proceeds to jump at you. He doesn't like use any
You say it's
projectiles. He
so
doesn't like shoot.
disappointed.
I know. I am very disappointed. So
Uh,
Lightning Cerberus has some options. He can shock the ground. He can shoot a laser beam or like a lightning beam and trail it from left to right, and then can like shoot like slow tracking projectiles. There's just one problem. Um, Nello's not a complete fucking idiot, even when he's under mind control and doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So he's just gonna see those and be like, "Wow, those lightning orbs are really cute, but I have an endless number of swords that I can summon at any point in time, and I have fireballs, which I can also spam, and I can also teleport, and I can also teleport to all of my projectiles,
and
and
we,
teleport you as well."
I mean, we also have to be aware to some extent that some of these abilities are more set up this way specifically for gameplay purposes, because like they have to have more combat attributes than like what we see in the game for obvious
Oh,
reasons.
sure. I'm just saying that, like, when I see Fire Cerberus, I'm like, you've got some new abilities, right? And he shows nothing. Like
The way you say that.
it's not that I'm saying he doesn't have the ability to like coat his weapons and stuff in flame. It's just like if you could just shoot one fireball, that'd at least be decent.
Just
The
one.
lion sword
Please,
with better fire
God.
abilities.
Just one.
Every fire enemy, Agni and Rudra, Phantom, the fucking Hellhounds from 4, every fire enemy in the series is better than Cerberus's fire mode. Like, even Burial doesn't stand before my flames. Like, dude, Burial's got better projectiles than you. What the hell are you talking about?
Does Fire Server? What does Fire
Shut
Servers
your
even do
mouth.
with fire? Actually, I don't. I think I just remember him rushing me with fire, like infused
So,
attacks.
Burial can coat his entire body in flames when he jumps to basically make all of his evasive maneuvers. Like, he basically can use flush, but he can do it in like a dash.
I'm pretty sure King Cerberus does that too.
It's better.
It's
Well, the way he does it is actually quite better. He can like shift his body and make it like smaller and bigger, and can enlarge it like instantly. He can shoot projectiles into the ground that track you, like Phantom's lava pillars, but actually useful. Um,
damn.
and then he also has a flame barrier around his body, so he actually has like good defensive options, decent projectiles, and good evasion tools. And then he's got a sword, of
Well,
course.
actually, so hang
It's
on.
good to have.
I was actually going to ask about Nello. So, like, since Nello's an honorable fighter, that means he's not going to sneak up on King Cerberus at all.
You won't attack him from behind, no.
So that means that King Cerberus will have the advantage of being able to see his opponent at all times. So, like, yes, he can teleport out of danger. Well,
Are you telling me he's gonna turn like his right head off to the side and be like, "Is that you over there?"
well, what I'm saying is like, okay, so Nello's gonna show up, or he's gonna show up in front of him, and then they're gonna start the fight. Now, I'm gonna assume based on the form he's in, he's gonna take reduced damage based to fire attacks, since like he's in his fire mode. I would assume fire
Sure.
hurts him less.
Sure.
And Neto Angelo's lightning abilities are going to be countered by the lightning version, although granted it's just lightning enhanced fire, which I don't really understand on an elemental
Wait,
level. How
what lightning abilities?
Neto Angelo has lightning powers.
When?
If you pay attention to his effects when he teleports and shit, they have lightning around them. His attacks are infused with fire and lightning.
I mean, we never see him use lightning as like an attack.
I
but
never
guess-
see Alistair launch a lightning blast outside of DT. What's your point?
Oh my god! Alistair's literally the lightning demon.
Doesn't fucking feel like it.
Okay, so I'm just saying, like,
I mean, if you don't get
Fireball-
lightning, then like, I mean, that's fine. That's fine. We can nerf Neto Angelo further. Oh, I don't need too much to be in with King Cerberus.
let's go to the cold, the ice, because that's gonna determine like the fight here.
As far as I know, Neto Angelo has no resistances. I mean, he's on fire 90% of the time, so maybe that'll keep him warm.
So he's technically Virgil, And
Well, keep in
Dante,
mind the armor doesn't share the resistances the Sons of Sparta do. Because keep in mind, we're fighting a suit of armor more than we're fighting Virgil.
understood, but that armor can take blows from Dante. So
That's,
like,
yeah, but we're talking. I mean, we're already equal. Yeah, no one's saying he's not going to be a tank. The question is on the real question on the table here is whether or not he can beat King Cerberus before King Cerberus's hacks just beat him.
well, so he has enough ways to keep shooting and locking him down with
He
projectiles.
does
If
have
he
good range
switches,
advantages, yes.
so if he switches out of fire and he goes to lightning,
But
he has
oh,
King Cerberus, yeah.
yeah, I was
So
gonna say, but counterpoint, King Cerberus's hitboxes are completely trash, so he'll be able to hit him from halfway across the map even when he's not close to him.
well, I just mean so it's not that his hitboxes are trash.
They
They're
are.
very one dimensional. So they're very one dimensional.
That's
So
just
like
buggy as
when
hell.
he shoots lightning, he tracks it to the ground,
Yes.
and it has a telegraph. So
Yes.
no one's gonna see it and just be like, "Oh, I should probably jump or teleport away from that," and then just move.
Well, technically, Nettle's an honorable fighter, so like, do we have any evidence if he tanks hits or not?
He can. Well, first of all, he blocks. Second of all, he teleports away when he takes damage. Like, just being honorable just means he won't fight dirty and he won't attack you from
I don't
behind.
know, man. Teleporting's pretty dirty. Should we even
And
allow
he'll
that
challenge you out in the
teleports?
open, but like the challenge out in the open has already happened. Teleporting, he's completely fine with doing.
I
It's
think
just
we should maybe remove teleports. They're clearly not honorable.
okay. So I think you misunderstand. Virgil's interpretation of honorable is different than like your
You mean the
interpretation.
interpretation honorable anyone else has? Yes, you're absolutely right.
Oh my God.
Okay, so obviously he can teleport around and he can block almost all King Cerberus's attacks because King Cerberus is like also a very honest fighter in terms of his abilities. So
His abilities, like a lot of them also have clear weaknesses, like the lightning bulb things. The tracking lightning cloud projectiles can just be destroyed,
yes.
and Virgil can just, or Nello in this case, can just fire fireballs or million summon swords at them and pierce them on
Well,
the
I was
spot.
gonna say, hang on. Are we gonna ignore the fact that the fireball requires him to stand still in a spot where he can't defend himself?
Yeah, but the advantage of the fireball is that it has a lot more kick to it. So as soon as he hits that, like he just has to do enough damage to Cerberus, and King Cerberus's head is gonna drop, and then he's gonna be able to go over there and combo him for free, until he's just like, hey, feel my ice, because like see that's another problem is that every time he switches to a new phase, keep in mind like the main problem that we've had with the generals up until now is that they don't survive past the lightning phase. But now we have a guy that has the evasion capabilities to get out of all the projectiles. He has the projectiles to match him, and he has armor and blocking abilities and plenty of things to keep up his defense. And now he's fighting with this guy who
Yes.
he can combo, and every single time he switches into a new phase, he telegraphs it with a big voice line and moves to a sector or a section of the arena that he's fighting in.
Well, I mean, like, so realistically speaking, the
And it's just, I'm just saying, like, he's very obvious about it.
no, I understand that, but like, how does Nello escape the ice freezing area? Because keep in
He can just
mind,
teleport away.
so you're just thinking he'll teleport like out of the well, okay. Keep in mind the AOE is massive, so like
Yeah, it's massive, but like it doesn't freeze completely everything in the room. It freezes a dedicated like section. What I say
well, I think
typically is
that's
that if
more. I think
Cerberus,
that's clearly more gameplay focused. Because keep in mind again, like his ice froze the entire Clive for like a several floors upwards.
yeah, but like you have to understand that like part of that can just be because he's just there, existing there over time, freezing everything. Like
I saw that
I
man
was
turn
fine with
this.
accepting that for Griffin because Griffin doesn't have
So are
like
you
ice
arguing that
resistance.
Virgil's ice resistance is that how you're trying to argue this? That
I mean, Don, like even if it's a weaker person in the Cerberus tribe, he did fight Cerberus and was capable of like breaking out of his ice. This is a much stronger like Virgil, and
okay.
he's also equipped with a suit of armor.
Okay, so I think we can agree that that this really just comes down to whether or not the ice can freeze like Neto Angelo, right? We don't really have to talk about fire and lightning.
Yes, so I guess if the ice doesn't freeze him, Nello probably takes it with
But
just
if
a lot of camping
yeah,
and
but
like
if the
combos.
ice does fuck with him, then King Cerberus would probably. Well, it depends on how effective the ice freeze actually is. Because if Nello can break out of it, he probably would still take the win. It would just be a lot closer of a fight. But if he
Well,
can't break out of
like,
it,
even if you give like Dante the idea that like if you say that Dante can be frozen by Cerberus's ice, he can break out of it in like 2 seconds.
yeah, because like Dante, I know I know in the games Dante can break out of the ice he's frozen with. So like if you assume Nello can break out of it, I mean it's a much closer fight. But King Cerberus doesn't really have any like extra oomph attacks to really set up a victory.
Wait, he's got one sleeper move.
What's that?
He can eat him.
He can eat. He can eat. I think that's what the armor is for, Mangler, to counter that specifically.
That was just like, well, I didn't expect this.
Interesting strategy. That never crossed my mind.
I would say Nello debatably is like the only general that could probably beat King Cerberus. I think the rest of them get like washed.
Yeah, absolutely. Any of the air generals are just gonna get fucking destroyed in this encounter. So
Now remember, guys, this is equalized. Don't come into the chat, the comments saying like, "Why the hell is DMC1 Nello fighting King Cerberus?"
I'm gonna be honest. Even then, I don't think we'd even get comments like that. I saw one guy on Reddit the other day debating me on whether or not human blood increases demonic power. I guess he thought the reason Urizen beat Dante was because he was just at 100% stamina, that he didn't get stronger, I guess, at any point.
Who really knows, honestly?
It's not like Dante received a power amp and Urizen is able to match that power amp after a month of just sitting on the fucking chair.
Nonsense.
Anyways, okay, so the next one on the table is going to be... well, who do you want to talk about next? Malphus or or fucking Caval?
I actually forgot who the generals were until
Elder
you
Kyrian
said.
Knight.
All right, so I would say Malphus, because Malphus is the weird one. So let's get her out of the way.
Okay.
Um,
I'm gonna start this off with Malphus's probably worst matchup because this is gonna be the weirdest one. Malphus versus Nightmare.
So here's the thing. We can technically kind of go to Visions of V and say, granted, I argue that when V says he's a little too much for her to handle, that's not just referring to her abilities. She would just be stronger than him as well. But like, it's also because of abilities. Like, you could like the Nightmare that shows up in 5, as Zim says, is way better combat oriented than the one that shows up in 1, and he still has all the same capabilities. He doesn't have the stupid reverse doppelganger light switch situation. He can like basically modify his body to any capacity, and Malphus can just get around that by like portal hopping and waiting, because Nightmare's gonna have to come out of the ground eventually.
I mean, that is true, but Malphus's portals are probably like the shittiest fucking portals in fiction.
Dude, she can attack you through the portals. It just kind of depends on... Okay, so it kind of depends on how much intelligence we give her, because Malphus is potentially really good if she's not a fucking idiot. But, like, she has this problem where after she, like, portal hops a couple times, she just tries to jump in with her chicken body. So, like, she just might, like, safely camp you from a range by throwing out projectiles in her like, arms and legs through portals, right? But then she'll just randomly body slam you and expose her body completely to an attack. So, depending on how Nightmare plays it, he could actually score several attacks if she just decides to try and body slam his armor before she figures out that the core is where the weakness is.
And there's also the problem that, like, her chicken dies of old age during the fight consistently. Like, you can get, like, it'll die, like, 3 times before, like, this fight's over.
The fact that they're a fused being messes with their durability super hard, because it means you can mess with the chicken and, like, Malphus falls down.
No, again, I'm not gonna get too much into what Mangler mentioned earlier about the Visions of V situation, but to be fair, Nightmare has a giant fucking laser beam.
Yeah, there's also the issue that like all of his projectiles are way better than her 3 spiky projectiles. That like I think most people forget that Malphus has projectiles.
No, hang on. Does she have projectiles? Or does she have tracking ground attacks? Because I've never seen.
She has projectiles.
I've never seen these.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. You've never seen them. That's how forgettable they are. That's how useful they were. They're the shittiest tracking projectiles I've ever seen. So yeah, like even Nightmare's worst projectile, of which he has like 3 or 4 of them, are gonna hands down beat all of her
And then
projectiles.
there's like that giant fucking side spike that's just gonna fucking hit that fucking chicken every time it moves.
Then there's the fact that like if he traps her in the Nightmare realm, she could be a far way out, but would she?
Well,
Because if she sees, well, actually, what would her trauma be? Would it just be Nemo?
maybe it's Mundus rejecting her for prom. She was very clearly a Mundus fan. Dude, I think DMC is literally just people Sparta forgot to kill and then Mundus fanboys afterwards.
Um,
Well, the Nightmare Realm probably would just be her fighting Urizen. That'd probably be her worst fear. Well, it's not fear, is it? It's like, it's directly
yeah,
trauma, huh?
it's your trauma. So like
Um,
Nero then.
near,
Yeah, so that's not going to end well for her.
because even if Nero's weaker, all those breakers and all that jumping, all that mobility.
Dude, once she gets out of there, she's going to be psychologically fucked.
So
Like,
it's not just
Nightmare's just going to
Nero.
keep camping.
It's not just Nero. It's Nero with nothing but ragtimes.
He's stun logging her and slowly. She's just like, I want to die, but you're not real, so it won't let me.
You remember that scene in Bleach when the guy's like looking at the sword waiting to stab him, like and he's like waiting for it to kill him? That's
He's
basically
like,
what this
"Come
one.
up and kill me. It's been 100 years already."
Um. Yeah. No. So I think even though you could argue that like real Malphus beats Nightmare, although it's most likely an AP difference or something else. In this equalized scenario, I think this version of Nightmare is just too tanky and too good with his attacks to lose to Malphus since her abilities are kind of shit.
All she has is a portal attack to hit the core while it's exposed, but like she's a ground fighter fighting a guy that, well, actually, what's even worse is that her arena is a dark area. So
Yes.
so the one disadvantage he has is now gone.
Oh,
So
and don't forget, he actually can shapeshift into other forms because he makes a net in the third fight to trap you in an
yeah,
area to
no,
blast you.
I was going to mention this for Artemis, but I didn't need to. He could just trap you in the net and then just camp you with projectiles or crush you with the net.
Where is your god now? Yeah, no, so Nightmare probably takes this one in equalized scenario, and the next one from Alphys. Well, okay.
Phantom.
Well, hang on. Let's just get Nello out of the way. Do we really think Malphus can beat Nello with her kit?
I'm gonna say no because she couldn't beat Nero. So
I was
how
gonna
is she
say
gonna beat Nello?
because Nello has more durability than a normal son of Sparta. Like all the Angelos are insanely more durable than like their standard forms.
There's
And
also
then
the problem that like, oh, you have portal hopping. Like I have teleporting.
I
Like
have a better version of that and better projectiles.
I have a better version of that doesn't have as obvious of a telegraph, and that you can't just reach through it and attack the person who spawned it.
Can you actually attack the limbs when they attack you? I know
Yes,
you can shoot.
yes.
She sucks so much.
Like her one slimy little black crystal mage thing, like projectile versus summon swords, like the best projectile in the series.
I think regardless of how this turns out, I think Nello's gonna have consistently the most wins across any of the generals in this fucking match.
I was just like, man, it must be nice to have all these W's.
And yeah, so Nello would beat Malphus equalized. Phantom and Griffin are the only ones left. You wanted to start with Griffin, you said?
Yeah, I want to start with Phantom.
You want to start
So
with Phantom?
I think Phantom finally has a matchup where we can potentially argue he might be able to win because his opponent is grounded. So he's
And
not like
shitty
getting
attacks
camped
all
to death.
across the board.
Well, he's grounded, and the opponent doesn't have projectiles to camp him to death.
And not
So
only that, but like Phantom's like body is covered in armor. His one weak spot she can't really hit.
and he can just take his one weak spot and shove it into the ground and shoot lava pillars under her body.
And he can also literally turn into a stinger, has meteor attacks, and yeah, I don't think Malphus is winning any of these. If I'm being honest.
Dude, I honestly thought there was unironically going to be some situation. Well,
Because again, her best projectile is a ground tracking attack, but that would only hit the back of his arm. That would only hit the bottom of his armored body.
technically, there was one ability I forgot to mention that Malphus can sort of trap you in an area and extract your demonic energy.
Is that the charge up attack?
No, that's the one she uses on V.
Okay, so she doesn't extract his demonic energy though. She literally makes him stronger.
She puts him in a dimension where.
Well, have you read Visions of V?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it literally just made him stronger.
I mean,
there's nothing to separate from these generals. Like, as far as we know, she separated the demons from V because they weren't directly tied to V, but he gets them back immediately, and he's stronger for it.
I was gonna say maybe she can summon some metaphysical phantoms of them, but like.
Okay, so Phantom might be in trouble. Boo. Well, actually, no. Well, because the metaphysical versions are demons under her control, so even if we say she throws them in that arena, they're also way weaker than they were at the start. Like, so weak to the point where V, I think, one-shots them in Visions of V, right? He basically just one-shots each one he fights.
I mean, he was only fighting Artemis.
And he basically just one-shot her, right?
And Goliath, who he all one-shot anyway. So, like, how would you tell the difference between him one-shotting you and then one-shotting you again?
Well, we got confirmation they're weaker in their real form, so I don't think it'd be too much trouble for any of the generals, and that's assuming they fall. Because V shows up in her weird fucking like pre-set up trap card. Because when you show up in the game, it's very clearly Malphus's like fucking bed you're in. There's purple everywhere. There's stone graves everywhere.
So, yeah, I think you should probably lose that one. I just thought she'd be able to walk away with a win here.
Unfortunately, all her abilities are completely trash.
So, I don't know if we need to discuss Griffin. I mean, she could probably swipe him like once or twice, but then he'll just start...
Wait, how's she going to do that if he can just knock her up into the air? Her one advantage of having the ground is gone against Griffin.
Griffin will just be like, I'll just keep moving. I'll just stay on the move.
You played Smash. You know how you just juggle someone in the air every time they fall back down? That's just going to be Griffin against Malphus.
Also, imagine someone who has the best airspeed and is just shooting projectiles that cover the screen nonstop. And every single time you try to like swipe them with a projectile, they just move and cover the area more projectiles.
This seems perfectly balanced. I'm sure Malphus is fine to be a part of this.
And like when I say like projectiles, I don't mean like summon swords like, oh, there's individual ones, but like there's a lot of them. Griffin's electricity are like lines that are dozens of feet long, stretch vertically and horizontally, and he can shoot them in every direction, and there are usually 10 to 20 of them at a time. And that's without mentioning like technically, even if you don't want to use the MC5, he would technically have access to those abilities. So he could shoot out a line of well, actually, no. DMC5 literally recreates his attacks from the first game, so I can use that one as well. He can shoot out a line of lightning that tracks from the center and squeezes in like a sandwich. So he can shoot like basically like a stationary turret for like a couple attacks that locks down your movement, and he can start shooting lightning grids on the ground as well. So he can create a minefield of lightning and just keep camping you to death. So Malphus is going to have an extremely difficult time moving around, trying to like fight him. Whereas he will have an extremely easy time moving around, fighting her.
So it really just sounds like she's got nothing to offer.
I was honestly expecting her to have one of the higher win streaks. I don't know why the hell I thought about that.
You were like, maybe if we were counting AP, sure.
I don't know. Even it equalized. I don't know why. Like, maybe it was just the portal thing.
Are you as disappointed as I am hearing this?
Yeah, just be
Okay.
like, oh, she'll just BFR them, and like forgot that they have dimensional travel, and they have speed that would make that invalid.
I'm glad you've learned your lesson.
Okay, so who's left? Cavalier. All right. Um. So
I'm
let's
gonna say
get.
this. I'm gonna say this right fucking now. Don't you even fucking say Griffin's name. Cavalier's gonna beat Griffin's ass like a fucking drum.
Um. Okay, why?
Why? Griffin's only advantages are completely negated by Cavalier. Better armor, better def. And I'm not even including the fact she's on the fucking horse, or it's on the horse. The horse is gonna be even.
The
What?
horse would make a difference.
The horse makes all the difference because it makes them look cooler. Anyways,
Well,
lightning. Oh, good.
I was gonna say I don't think the audience is aware of this, but we did technically go back and get scans for this when we went through DMC1. That all the generals are completely unaffected by time stop and like time manipulation. So Garion's powers wouldn't work on any of the generals. So really, all Garion has to offer
Is a meat shield, which is all
like
I need.
his time space jumps and a meat shield.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they actually do jump through time and space. I forget about that because it never does anything useful.
The original Garion can do it too.
Well, no, well, okay, yeah, you're not wrong, but like I just keep forgetting that because I just remember being slowed. I just remember PTSD.
Yeah. So, I mean, he can like relocate himself and then shoot lightning. It's just like,
Well, okay,
I think the best advantage is just the armor.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, and that just so happens to counter most of Mundus' generals in equalized fight. Because keep in mind that Cavalier's armor is not like Nello's armor where he just takes more hits. Cavalier has perfect defense, as confirmed by Nico, so they actually have a shield. I know, crazy.
I mean, what about the laser bird?
What about the laser bird?
It passed right through the armor.
Yeah, but it's not going to do enough damage on its own. And also, you can technically dodge that, so she can just or it can just keep teleporting around, and the bird would be useless.
I mean,
and just to be clear, Cavalier has actual teleports, not that trash ass portal shit Malphus runs.
well, he has teleports that use lightning.
Yeah, but they can do it in quick succession too.
That's cute. Let me just light up the entire area with lightning and shock your horse to death.
I'm afraid the horse. Well, actually, if the horse can do time space jumps, it can literally just appear right in front of Griffin and knock it to the ground. That's totally like it could.
And Griffin can fight without his wings and electrocute the entire area.
Great. It fights down. It's okay, fine. It kills Girion, then it loses the Cavalier, because the second its wings are gone, Cavalier can just walk up to it and beat it to death with its own hands.
Are we giving you that on the assertion it would even lose its wings? I don't think that would realistically happen. I think he would stay in the air, and then every time he gets knocked to the ground, he just nukes.
Well, so the problem is that any range advantage is gone, because not only can Cavalier teleport, as can the horse, but like it also has Cavalier has similar, if not better. Well, I wouldn't say better range projectiles, because again, you are right. Like technically, Griffin can turn the entire fucking map into a Saw game, but fucking
electric Saw game.
For effectiveness, for the sake of combat effectiveness, Cavalier still has just as good as range projectiles. That's also not including the fact that she can also like do AOE.
That is not true.
It absolutely is.
No, Cavaliers do not track, and they're single shot projectiles.
I mean, we're not talking about tracking a little fucking Dante though. We're talking about tracking a fucking bird the size of my house.
I mean, that bird the size of your house is fucking fast.
What?
Do we need to remind the audience of the Ripper?
Bruh, that would scale the Cavalier too. What are you on about?
My point is that Griffin is
that only works if they're not the same speed, Mangler.
But they're the same species.
No, what I mean is that only like the speed difference only works if they weren't the same speed. That's like saying that is like saying you couldn't hit a ball the size of the fucking New York State building, Mangler.
My gosh, he's not that big.
He's bigger than the ship you fight him on.
Also, all Griffin really has to do is just get around the shield. That's not really like that difficult.
Well, Griffin has no options to get around it though, because again, we're not talking about shielding. Lightning
lightning minefield, multiple like
No, because
what is
the
it?
shield blocks anything. Like it's basically it's kind of like
In
Kratos'
front.
shield, where like it just blocks everything in front of it.
Yeah, in front of it, but it's only unidirectional. You just shoot around it.
Yeah,
Really?
but in order to shoot around it, that would mean that like fucking he'd have to like that would mean Cavalier would have to be like focusing the shield down on one thing. Keep in mind, this is also a character who can teleport out of danger.
Yeah, teleport around an area that is covered in lightning.
Yeah, but there's gonna be open spots in that storm. There's not. It's not 100%
And
covered in
Griffin's
everything.
gonna know where all of those open spots are because he's the one laying the traps.
And
So
this,
he'll
well, I
just
mean,
be like,
that's
"Oh,
even
you're
assuming
teleporting?
Caval.
Why don't I just double layer?
I
Why
mean,
don't I just shoot another one?"
Cavalier could literally just take the fight to Griffin directly. There's no reason they can't just keep teleporting around Griffin, hitting them directly, which is gonna just completely destroy them. Because
I
Griffin has
mean,
no
every
close
time
game.
he's gonna have to, Griffin can just stand next to his lightning field. So every time he's gonna have to stand in, he's gonna get shocked.
But that's not how. But that's not how Griffin fights, though. Like Griffin literally launches projectiles at you. I mean, yeah, he has some lightning around him on the floor and stuff, but like, it's
He
never.
actually does. He actually does come down to the ground and does attack you directly. At times, he
Yeah,
will dive
but
on you.
Griffin's close range combat is not going to compare in any way, shape, or form to to anyone who fights like
I'm
comparable.
saying that if he tries to go to CQC with Cavalier, he's just gonna immediately lightning bomb everything in the vicinity, teleporting or not. Cavalier's gonna get hit.
No, well, again, Cavalier can just shield themselves. They have a shield on both sides of their body. They can also shield on top of them, technically, because the shield does extend that high.
Not unidirectional, or it's not omnidirectional.
I mean, I don't. I mean, I think the only
You can
open
also
spots
you can also
Cavalier.
break the shield, like you can knock it aside.
No. Well, okay, so what attack in DMC5 breaks the shield?
Like most attacks.
No. Well, no. What you can
Yeah.
do is okay. Name me an attack that breaks the shield, because I've never seen the shield break like with normal attacks.
Yeah, so what you can do is you pelt it enough and he'll knock it to the side and he'll literally fall down.
What are you using to do that though?
You can use any attacks to do it. It's really just a
You
matter
know
of
what? Do you have a console with you? Because after we're done with this video, I want you to show me that because I don't believe you.
yeah. Wait, how have you not? So it's not the
Well, so
shield doesn't get
I just jump
destroyed.
around the
Not
shield, like I just go like around it, or then they teleport and start attacking me. But
I
I've never
mean
broken the shield with a normal attack.
that works, but you can also like break it.
Again, like I'm not doubting you can't break it. I'm just saying that what it takes to break the shield is not your like average attacks. It's like a charged up fucking like Sin DT shit maybe.
No, you can break it with Balrog.
Okay, so are you using Balrog's strongest attack, or what are you doing with Balrog?
Just like multiple normal punches that are ignited.
Again, break it, or do they just start attacking you back?
So what happens is you hit it and
Okay,
it
okay,
kind of
whatever.
carries
We
you
can
off
talk about
the
this
side.
later. Let's not try and bloat the video. We've been here for an hour and 7 minutes already. Let's not let we not important.
We're almost done with the generals. I mean, that's pretty good. And then
Okay.
now we're left for Mundus versus
Okay,
Urizen.
so personally, I think that Cavalier, even without the horse, has more than enough mobility options and shielding options to bring down Griffin. But you seem to be on a disagreement here with
The
that.
horse has a name, you fool.
The horse is only useful when I deem it to be.
I think we would disagree, but that's just based on like what I know about Griffin's abilities.
Okay, fine. Well,
Leave it up to the audience to decide.
I'll say we'll see if the
Decide.
audience has an opinion on this one. Okay, so Phantom, is this really a matchup we need to talk about?
I feel like after discussing Phantom's many losses, maybe the fire projectiles are gonna work this time.
Because we're talking about a character who can dodge and actually block attacks this time.
Yeah, so moving on to Nightmare.
Okay, Nightmare is interesting because Nightmare does have so many projectiles up the wazoo.
Why does this matchup come down to if you fly? Like, do you fly? Yes. Do you have good projectiles? No, you're dead. Are you stationary? Yes, you're dead. Are you stationary? Yes, but I have a guard. Do you have projectiles? Yes, you're probably good.
Well, so this one's kind of weird because I don't think there's really anything in Nightmare's arsenal that beats Cavalier Angelo's like shielding, except for maybe the giant laser beam, you know, and maybe mini
he can do
pelts.
boomerang and
Well,
rotating
you can
turret.
parry the boomerang, so Cavalier can just like launch the boomerang back with like a sword swing.
He can, but like my point is that he can mold like multiple attacks after one after another. Because some of them just show up as automatic defenses, so he just has to hit him in the interim where he has like multiple attacks out, and he
Uh,
could probably get to him.
I think this, especially since like unfortunately Griffin or not Griffin, fucking unfortunately since fucking Girion does
Tyrion.
nothing for this, I can't really think.
Tyrion is literally just sitting there, just like
Girion is just like a meat shield in every one of these fights.
Garion just exists to allow Cavalier more time to live.
Nightmare just has like an absolute defense and great
Like,
offense. I can't
so,
really
so
think.
what happens? What happens if he pulls him into the nightmare realm? Does that? So do we get a 2-for-1? Just like
Hang on, hang on. To be fair, he's fighting a walking light bulb. I don't think he'd have the ability to actually to like get blobby.
no. I mean, like if it does happen. So if Cavalier's on top of Garion,
Oh yeah, they could just jump off Gary and leave Gary in the fight for themselves.
no, I meant like,
Oh
do I
well,
get
clearly you and I were thinking of two different like solutions here.
do I get two illusions for the price of one? Like, both of them just
Dude,
grab.
Garion's gonna Yoshi fucking Garion. Or no, fucking Cavalier's gonna Yoshi Garion.
Gary, all Garion sees is his dad abandoning him, and all Cavalier sees is like the Spartasaur just taunting him.
No, it's V. It's both their nightmares are just V.
It was just V looking at him, and then for Garion it's V stabbing him, just trapped in a time loop. But it's ironic because he controls time, but yet he can't break the loop.
So I don't think Gary I don't think Cavalier can beat Nightmare because even by the time Nightmare start even with Nightmare exposing its cores, Nightmare can protect its cores pretty well. And
Nightmare also goes kind of suicidal when his cores start breaking down.
that is true. He does get way
If
stronger.
you've seen Nightmare 3, the entire room goes batshit insane when he gets critical. So even if he dies or he's on the verge of death, he will take you with him. He will turn the entire room into a death trap.
I can't say in good confidence that fucking Cavalier would win this fight.
All right, now for the moment you've all been waiting for: Neto Angelo versus Cavalier Angelo.
Hey, to be fair, it's Elder Gary night. Featuring the horse that does nothing.
All right, so the fight starts. Garion gets killed immediately.
No, it would survive a little bit. You know it to be true.
Okay, so he'd probably absorb like a couple hits.
Why do you say it like that?
What is he supposed to do? Just be like, oh, I can.
Wait. No. Hang on. Is this Neto Angelo 3? Because Neto Angelo's 1 and 2 get affected by time manipulation. Is this Neto Angelo 3?
This is Neto Angelo 3.
No. Okay, so Garion dies relatively quickly into the fight.
He just gets hit with some swords, and he's like,
and so so now it's Cavalier versus Nello. Okay, so I'm gonna say this up front. Nello's only advantage at this point is just summon swords.
So he's got a teleport that's not obvious, that doesn't have a giant lightning bolt that indicates where he's gonna be at all times.
Well, to be fair, that's a little inconsistent because he does have a tell on the cutscenes, but it doesn't really appear in gameplay.
Well, so like my point is that when he shows up, well, actually, Cavalier's tell is there.
No. I mean Neto Angelo's. Like Neto Angelo doesn't have a tell in like the gameplay directly, but he does have a tell in the cutscenes.
So I meant like when Cavalier teleports.
Yes.
We literally see a bolt, like a light of like cone light show up around his body.
Yes, we know Trish can't control herself.
So we're gonna know like where he's gonna go, and Nello's gonna be like, "Hey, I can do that too," except mine's like less obvious. So He's just gonna ace Cavalier everywhere, like, and then it's like, oh, you have a shield that blocks from the front. Oh, I can't attack you from behind because I'm honorable, but like, what about from above? What about from the front or the back? What if I just, like, hypothetically throw a million swords at you while I'm also attacking you with my actual sword until the shield breaks? Or until I force you to come out from behind the
Well,
shield and attack me.
so the real question here, for being 100% honest, is going to be like, in close quarters combat, both can be parried, but Cavalier does have the range advantage of a spear, and they do have a shield technically. While Nello can block, Nello summoned swords are going to be destroyed by Cavalier's lightning AoEs.
Nello has better swordsmanship.
That is
That's
true.
not debatable. Like,
But Cavalier
like
does
if we
have a
try,
massive range advantage because, like, it's really triple Nello's size, I think, even in
I mean,
length.
he had a massive range advantage over Dante, and look how that turned out.
Okay,
I know
that's.
that's the bad example
Oh, so that's
because
not
Dante
fair.
is way stronger. But like, if we made them equalize stats, do you really think it would have made that much of a difference?
So here's the thing. Like, Dante's just more agile than Neto Angelo in general. Dante's more agile than Virgil in most of their encounters.
You don't think Neto Angelo would be more agile than Cavalier?
So Neto Angelo's best agility showing is he just jumps over a dumbass Dante.
I mean,
And that's only catching him off guard for melee attacks. We never see anything similar again. So, like, it. Because keep in mind, jumping over Dante? Dante doesn't even come up to Cavalier's fucking kneecaps.
hey, I'm fine with having like a Phantom Menace jump where he like jumps over behind him and then Cavalier.
He's gonna start jumping and Cavalier's gonna grab him in the air and fucking slam his ass back into the ground.
Or he'll just teleport or shower the entire area and summon swords.
Well, again, it's like going over the summon swords thing. Like, Cavalier can just destroy those with the lightning around her, since like they do get destroyed by being hit.
This is true, except when the first one that goes off, you're not gonna know because how the fuck are you gonna be able to predict a bunch of swords appearing out of thin air?
Are we serious in DMC? Are you sure about that statement?
Yeah, because Virgil has different forms of summoned swords. He's got the ones that show up around him that are obvious, and she'll be like, okay.
Well, so you can see the only ones you aren't going to be able to see directly are the ones that are going to be above your head that hit you downwards. But like, I mean, okay, so he gets one off.
Or the ones that spin around you.
No, we have no reason to assume you can't see those.
No. When I say like, you can't like react to them, I mean like, you're gonna have to commit to an option of destroying them because they can track you even when you're teleporting.
Well, so that is true, but like again, we're talking about someone who could probably like just like spin around in one attack, or just call lightning down just call lightning down. It will destroy everything around them.
Nello can just wait for an interim between the strikes and just hit him, or just call another one. And keep forcing him to throw out options.
I mean. Now at this point so here's the problem. Is like at this point there's not going to be like an end to this because if we're assuming Nello plays a keep away game, which would not be Nello's fighting style, he does fight you in close quarters and he doesn't like zone you that hard.
Those fireballs would like a word. As soon as he gets in disadvantage, he starts camping you to death.
I mean that's not entirely true because you can get close to him. He's not just going to immediately teleport away. You have to fight him some more. Like, I just don't think the idea of Nello permazoning...
Cavalier is designed exactly the same way.
Cavalier does not permazone you, though.
No. I mean, like, Cavalier's teleporting is exactly the same way. Like, after you beat up Cavalier for a little bit, he only teleports away, like, after...
I mean, yeah, but she'll come back and do, like, in-between teleport swings, which is something Nello does not do at any point. He does, like, straightforward slices. So you could argue that maybe he can't predict, like, Cavalier's teleport slices, since, well, he can't really think for himself because he's being moondified.
Dude, his muscle memory was so good he didn't need a brain.
He's just like, what is this, a straightforward attack? Did you think this would work on me? I mean, like, since we are equalizing this...
When can I bust out the real IQ play of saying that this is technically DMC1 Virgil, so he's got the Beowulf gauntlets?
I was just gonna say, like, if I'm being perfectly honest, because of the range advantage, I think maybe Cavalier can take it, but then like Summon Swords is like, hey, I exist.
I have 8 different versions, automatic and manual, and they can all
You
exist at
remember
any
me,
point.
right? Summon Swords, that one ability that is stupidly busted in every variation I ever exist in. You remember me.
It's also the fact that Summon Swords makes every single option he has that's decent now really good. So Fireballs becomes really good now because Summon Swords can track you and force you to pay attention to them.
I feel like it's
Um,
because like we have to argue for a zoning version of Nello Angelo that probably could exist if it was intelligent enough, but wouldn't be the
but
most consistent because again he would be going in for close quarters combat
even
at least
even
at
if we
first.
didn't have that, he still consistently zones you even when he's bum rushing you. So like he'll just keep shooting omnidirectional like spiral storm swords at him while he's camping behind the shield because Cavalier is either going to have to teleport, which the swords are going to track him, or he's going to have to stand still and do the shield, or he's going to have to attack and remove the shield. If he attacks and removes the shield, he gets hit. If he's behind the shield, he gets hit just on the backside. Or if he teleports, he's probably going to get hit or he's going to get clipped. So I just think like summon swords kind of covers like most situations. If Cavalier takes it, it's like high difficulty. Like I think really high difficulty. It's gonna come down to teleport slashes and like Cavalier probably shooting a little bit of lightning around his position so he can do the charge up attacks. I think that's his the Cavalier's best like win condition is just to keep applying like projectile spam and like teleport slashes. That's and just kind of hoping that summon swords doesn't like kill him.
The way you say that, just kind of hoping he doesn't just like die.
I don't know, like leave it up in the comment section because that one's actually like I think I could probably be convinced depending on the day, like because the problem is that they're both designed to do the same thing, just with like slightly different tools. They're both Angelos. They're both knights. So
Either way, I think we can just say for the record that like, in general, fucking Neto Angelo over here probably had the best track record and the best chance of all of Mundus' generals.
well, like also Cavalier had the best track record by far. Um, well, yeah, actually no, yeah, he did. If it wasn't for the fact that all the if it wasn't for the fact that all the generals were immune to time manipulation, he probably would consistently be sweeping everybody.
Hey guys, I got this horse that manipulates time. Great. Now fight the only group of people who have consistent immunity to time manipulation.
All right, so let me see if I can keep track of this before we move on to like Mundus versus Urizen.
Okay, so Phantom lost every single fight except for one.
Wait, which one did he lose? Oh yeah, he beat Malphus.
Malphus loses every single one.
So the only person he won was someone that lost every single fight. Um, Griffin
Hate
won
to
against
see it.
Malphus, lost against Cerberus and Cavalier. So 2 for 2.
Okay.
Nello beat Malphus, Artemis. Nello, I think we agreed that like Nello can pretty comfortably beat Cerberus if he can break out of the ice, and then Cavalier is like high difficulty.
Yeah, so okay, so
Like,
it's currently 5-3 now.
how are we calculating this exactly?
Okay. Let me do it real quickly so that way it'll be easier. Okay, so Griffin was 1-2 lost to, right? That's what we agreed on Griffin?
1-2 lost to, yeah.
Okay, so that's 2-2 right now. Then we get to Nello. Nello beat 3 of them, and maybe like or well, no, Neto Angelo technically has 2 potential losses, but only one seems to be more viable with Cavalier. So we'll just say
I would argue he could beat Cerberus because
Okay.
Cerberus' only one con is him not breaking out of the ice.
Okay, so that would give 3 points to Mundus' generals, and then 1 point towards, or at least like a neutral point in the direction, or like Okay, fuck it. We'll just say 3-3. We'll just say 5 points for Mundus' generals, 3 for fucking Urizen's. We'll just give the win to Cavalier, but it's technically neutral because I don't want to put another fucking digit in this. Then we have Malphus, who literally loses every fight. So now it's 9-3 on Urizen, 3 on Urizen's side, and the last.
Wait. Where did they get the 9 from? Was that? Oh
Well,
wait, that's right.
Yeah, so Nightmare fucking yeah, no, okay, yeah. So I think it's safe to say that if we were to compile this, I think Mundus's not Mundus's generals, Mundus's 2 acquisitions are the ones that end up carrying his side.
Okay, so we talked about this at the beginning before we went over this, before we go into Urizen versus Mundus, because I think that's probably only going to be like 10 minutes. Even though we've been here for like an hour. We did say we might do a team battle. So some of
You're right. Nightmare Neto Angelo versus the 4 generals. Let's go.
I was gonna say some of this changes a little bit, but that's really only for the demons here that have intelligence. Sorry, I had to step away for a sec.
All right.
So Griffin technically becomes way more valuable now because not only is he still performing all the same zoning, he can do call-outs and he can tell everyone where like what they need to be doing because he can communicate with everybody. And Nello, from what we know with Virgil's like with V's time spent, can hear and can respond to other people. He's just not like he's kind of just like obedient really. He's not really like able to consciously make his own decisions. So if Griffin or Phantom try to go and give him orders, he'll probably like follow them. Probably. Nightmare is a bit of a different story because we have direct statements that Nightmare only obeys the will of its master. So he'll really only like fight to survive or fight to kill, and that's it.
I mean, let's just not be around the bush here. Like, I mean, most of fucking Urizen's forces don't really bring a sufficient enough encounter to beat the combined might.
Hang on. I think Malphus might actually be useful here.
Are you sure about that? Or are you just trying to lie to yourself?
Malphus could shove Cerberus inside of a dimension, and then he just goes into ice mode, or tries to go into ice mode, and then she BFRs him into the middle of Mundus' forces right as he goes ice mode.
Okay, so that'll work on that'll work on most of them except like probably Nightmare since like even.
I'm saying that's a mix-up they have. I don't know if Malphus is smart enough to do that.
Are we also gonna forget the fact that it's incredibly like highly like it's not even something you can hide. You're going to see it regardless.
Yeah, because you can also attack through the portal. So, like, it's entirely possible that Nightmare might see that coming and might just charge a blast and fire it into the portal and blow King Cerberus across the fucking room. Or, I guess, across the room that he's sitting in, which is different from the room that they're in. Artemis technically survives for, like, 5 more seconds. But still probably gets zoned to death. He's basically Artemis is like a pigeon trying to escape like an eagle. It's not like that's her relationship with Griffin right now. Griffin's also way bigger than her.
Look, man. It's just I just don't see the Mundus forces losing at this point since they literally curb stomped 2. Well, hang on. Are we including Girion?
What? No, Girion gets to be gangbanged.
What the fuck?
It's like, oh crap! My abilities don't work on any of you individually. Yeah, now I think you was.
Okay, hang on. Well, Girion's there taking blows for the team. Then they use their team attack, and then they freeze.
I'll be honest. It's Malphus with some mix-ups, maybe, assuming her brain is turned on and she's not a complete idiot.
If they get Girion as a meat shield, I think we might have a chance here.
With 2 meat shields, so it's King Cerberus and Cavalier with 2 meat shields and a dysfunctional like witch mage class person that might help you.
You know what? I think just with the extra body, I think we might have a chance here. I'm really liking our chances here.
Honestly, I think Mundus takes it, but it would be pretty interesting for the first like 5 seconds.
It would be probably the most unique battle DMC has ever witnessed.
Well, because like every situation where Griffin could be killed now is kind of remedied by the fact that he has Nello and Nightmare to cover him. Just keep the pressure off him by just constantly applying pressure. Now all of his lightning is just constantly on the field, harassing the enemy. So there's just so many more problems to deal with.
The combo moves that can be acquired in what, so they both have combo moves, but there's a lot more setup required for one side than there is for the other.
Yeah. All right. So on to the big boys.
We've been here an hour and 30 minutes.
Good. That leaves 30 minutes for Urizen versus Mundus. Right. So this is technically Urizen 2, right?
So I guess Urizen 2 makes the most sense. We're gonna. Okay. Seriously, are we giving him the armor or no?
We're giving him the armor.
Oh, okay. All right. Mangler wants to give him the armor. You all heard it here first.
All right. So
Urizen wins.
How do you how do you think this would go?
Okay. If I'm being 100% non-fallacious, this is gonna be Urizen trying to swat a fly in the sky.
Except this fly has like every single power under the sun that you can think of, and has a barrier that they're camping behind and constantly running away and shooting projectiles.
Well, I'm just gonna say something. I'm just gonna say something. If Mundus, well, it's because here's the thing, Mundus isn't getting through the armor because the armor is literally gonna protect him from any of Mundus's normal like attacks he shows off in the boss fight.
But let's see, we have the same problem for Urizen, where he's not gonna touch or reach Mundus. So we have two people who. Because,
oh, and I actually forgot Urizen would have the crystal too, so he also has another shield.
He's just like, my armor is better than yours. I'm like, yeah, well, I still have a really good shield barrier. I can be afar anywhere that I want. I can create a universe with any properties of anything that I want. So if I want, this is what I did mention like before the recording was that I did mention it before the recording, but the reason I bring up the idea that Mundus can create like any demon on the fly is because he could just make a universe or a dimension, create something, throw it in there, and come and get it in like 5 seconds.
Well, see, I understand the potential argument you're making here. I understand that that's technically viable, but I think we should be a little true to what we see and how he fights more than like what he could do. Because keep in mind, by this logic, he could have done that to Sparta, and that obviously didn't happen.
So that wouldn't have worked because Sparta was way stronger and faster than him to begin with. For Dante,
my boy Urizen's in so many hentai though. Come on, he's clearly superior.
So for Dante, that wouldn't be applicable because he was observing Dante throughout most of the game and would be aware that he was already countering all the demons that he had seen at that point. So, like, he wouldn't really be in a position to be doing this. Whereas we're now having him fight Urizen, a guy that doesn't really have extensive knowledge of Mundus's capabilities.
No, Urizen should have. Oh, actually, no, you're right. Yeah, because this one doesn't have the memories.
Yeah, because he's not V.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So he's not going to know about the plasmids, or the blitz, or shadow. Or frost,
I mean, none of those are really gonna matter here because technically,
Mundus would still have all of their abilities.
I mean, yeah, but unfortunately, well, okay, no, he does not. He would not use the plasmid's ability. He never splits himself up at any point. Like we can't assume he's just gonna create clones for himself.
I'm saying he could imitate imitate.
I understand that technically we can go hoopla on everything, and that's fair. But I think we should try and keep it a little bit to what the general audience would remember of Mundus's kid.
Okay, fine. We're not
just to be clear, though. Technically, if we're being 100% honest, Mundus could literally just make like an infinite army of himself to fucking fight Urizen. Now, granted...
I'm sorry, guys, but like we do need to mention this. Mundus does state, I can create as many Trishes as I want. Like, I can make as many as you want. That's not an exaggeration. In DMC2's novel, it's revealed that he created an infinite army. So he could just fap his hands into the air and make an infinite number of demons.
So I think I have a good analogy for this. Imagine Urizen is Goku, and then Mundus is literally anyone else in tier 2. He actually has abilities to fight someone.
One might say he has too many abilities.
So,
because
I
was gonna say his problem. I think the problem with fighting Mundus is that like most demons we just say like, oh, they can get new powers.
I bought the whole fucking wave. I really hope it doesn't suck.
I'm sorry, Mingler. My bird just came in here with the box of the Lego Eternals, apparently the $120 box.
No, it was only $89.
Dude, that movie. Oh.
Dude, I'm really hoping it doesn't suck.
All right, hang on. I'm recording the video right now. We can talk a little more after this. Wait.
So the demonic desire thing.
Actually, though, this is for my stream. So can I technically write this off as a tax write-off?
Technically, but
because I'm already making money on Twitch.
Yeah, you can talk to tax expert and see if you're gonna stream it.
I am.
All right, yeah. Go just ask your tax expert because I'm not a tax expert. And please, no one in the comment section ask for tax advice.
Sheesh!
All right, thank you.
So I was gonna say, like, for those in the audience that aren't like aware, while we can use demonic desire to say like Mundus could just manifest new abilities, we know that he has the powers and abilities of his generals because he demonstrates them in his boss fight. He demonstrates Griffin's lightning and Phantom's lava pillars. So he has the powers of even the servants that like he didn't create, that are just like loyal to him. So, man, if we're considering like an expanded arsenal, he has got all of the projectiles. Now, granted, Urizen is very much in the same position. He has all of the weapons and abilities of his generals. But as we've kind of established, his generals weren't faring so well against Mundus. I'm gonna say, like, honestly, I thought like the best thing that he has at his disposal would probably have been Malthus's portal hopping and like Virgil's abilities, and then like what's it called, the tentacles. But the tentacles have a limited range.
So I've always had it like this because even before me and Kyle did the video, I always had it like this, and I think I told Kyle this too. This is how I see this matchup with the armor. Any of Mundus's conventional attacks are not going to hurt Urizen in the slightest, but Mundus does have other options to hurt Urizen directly or to potentially bypass the armor. The crystal's a little debatable, but the crystal's same problem Mundus has, like the shield on the outside, so you can just break the crystal with enough damage, or at least shut it down.
You can also just move around the crystal, because as the cutscene shows, Urizen has to have it directly in front of him.
Well, that's not entirely true. I think
So the barrier that he uses, there are two barriers. There is not one barrier.
Well,
when Sin DT Dante shows up, he pulls the crystal directly in front of him.
Okay, that's true, but can you beat the crystal even in game? Because I know even if you try doing time slow, the crystal will always beat you to wherever you're going to try and hit Urizen. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, but it will always, every time you try to hit Urizen, it will always move in front of him to block it. It will never block it from a different direction and then break. It will always move to the front in position of him. And then when it's like broken or whatever, it goes off to the side.
Yeah.
Which indicates consistently he has to move it in front of him, or it will automatically move in front of him, manually or automatically. Yeah. I'm just saying, the crystal has to be directly in front of him. That's just like one weakness.
But then the armor takes care of any other conventional direct damage, because again the armor allowed someone like Urizen to survive Sin DT Dante. So the armor.
When I go with the tentacle attacks.
I'll just say that the armor. So this is kind of the one thing about the equalization that's a little sketch, because the armor technically scales above wherever you put Urizen, because it was able to take hits from someone who was massively stronger than him, and we know Sin DT's massively stronger because even with the fruit, Urizen still loses the fight.
I would just say that it's really just going to come down to what attacks just bypass the durability and mainly can get inside Urizen's body, which are probably going to have to go from his, his attacks are probably going to have to target Urizen's tentacles and try to get inside the armor. Which, to be fair, he does have Nightmare's abilities. So he could shimmy some little some black eels in between the slivs in his armor.
I will just say completely up front, if Urizen can get Mundus on the ground or get in a close range fight, Mundus doesn't win anymore. Urizen's gonna beat the living shit out of Mundus.
So, given how Mundus fights, I don't think that's going to be an option. Because
So-
Mundus is an air battle man.
It's really just so unless he can use the crystal or Yamato to destroy Mundus's barrier to try and hurt him, Urizen just lacks the ranged options in the second form to have any chance here.
I think all he has
He has
actual projectiles. He has summoned swords.
No. Actually, hang on. He has Artemis's light attacks, so he can bombard Mundus' shield and break it.
Yeah, but the problem is that Artemis's light attacks are slow as fuck, and they have a telegraph on the ground when they show up. So Mundus is gonna see those.
How do they look like in Visions of V? How do they appear in Visions of V? Hang on.
In Visions of
Summon the
V?
Visions of V. Summon the sacred text.
What they actually show up like is that he holds his hand up and there's literally like a light circle that shows up for a second or two, and then the light projectile comes out.
Well, Mundus flies in a straight line, so I don't think he's gonna be doing any evasive maneuvers anytime soon.
You don't think he's gonna move? He's gonna be like, oh, let me just sit here.
No, because Mundus is actually flying on a 2D plane. He is not flying on a 3D plane.
I forgot he's not a three-dimensional character. Got it.
Well, okay, so I'll just say this: if by some miracle Urizen can drop Mundus to the third phase of the fight in the lava pit, he's gonna have a fucking field day beating the shit out of Mundus. Mundus's close range game is garbage.
Do we want to discuss? So now we discussed like Urizen's win conditions. Do we want to discuss Mundus's win conditions?
Well, you've already said a few of them, but if you want to go a little more in depth, we can go a little more in depth. Yeah.
So there is the Griffin's laser bird thing. Like he can just fire that to get around the armor. There's also
actually, so hang on a minute. It goes through other objects. Does it go through can we say it goes through things on people though?
Yes, because it goes through Dante directly and can still hurt him.
All right.
It can also launch him into the. So it can also get it can give you various aviation / wind effects where it can send you into the air every time it touches you. There's also the problem that Mundus can do a lot of BFR, and he very much does so. So I'm not gonna say he'll spam it, but all he really needs is one good portal hop on Urizen to just send him to a different location.
Well, I don't really think it would matter because Yamato okay, so there's no place Mundus can send Urizen that's going to affect him, and Yamato technically should be able to bring Urizen back. Hang on, let me message him.
Sure. But he can also portal hop Yamato right before his projectiles hit Urizen.
No. Okay, so that one's gonna be a little. Okay, so first off, that one's gonna be very iffy because we've never seen that occur anywhere in DMC, where a character BFR someone's weapon before something happens, and we're talking Yamato here, which is probably just as busted as, if not more busted than Mundus.
So the problem with that is that the only people who portal hop in DMC are Malphus and Mundus. And the only time Mundus ever fought Virgil, he was dead exhausted and didn't even need to try. Malphus never fought Virgil, saw Urizen take over the demon world, was like, well, guess it's time to saddle in. was not convinced she could fight him just because of sheer raw strength. And
yeah, because
Urizen
has the worst fucking K of all of the Demon Kings, well, except for maybe Abigail. Maybe. Well,
hang on. Wait a minute. Are we counting Pluto? What we know about Pluto?
Well, all Pluto's powers are time manipulation based, right? That's all we know so far.
Technically fate manipulation, spatial manipulation.
Yeah, that's useless. Never mind. All right, Urizen has the second worst Demon King. So unfortunately, Mundus just has better options in a fight like this. And it's really Urizen's range.
I say that there's two versions of this. So if this is how can you make this a close quarters? So if this is a close quarters area where they've sealed each other into a room, as long as he's within 50, 60 feet or so. Well, I guess if we have to be
I'm
much
just
larger,
I'm just gonna tell you up front.
Mundus
In any close quarters combat, like Urizen's going to win. Mundus's close quarter like is just terrible. You'd have to argue for him to use such random abilities that he doesn't like normally demonstrate in close quarters combat. Again, because like we've seen him fight, it wasn't pretty.
Well, and then we have a long range scenario. I think Mundus takes that pretty handily because
So
every ability he uses is catered for long range. And he has too many mix up options, too many things that he can do, and too many options that he has that all blend into one another and make each other better.
now keep in mind as well. We're well technically summoned swords don't belong to second form Urizen, but even third form Urizen has no ranged options, which is. I mean, okay, so lore-wise, he could probably make some, but like we have to work with what we've seen.
No, so you could argue he has summoned swords. There's just one fucking problem. Mundus already knows what those do.
I mean, yeah, but like, so it's like,
He's just gonna see them and be like, oh, those are just Nellos, but like purple.
I mean, so yeah, again, so like here's the so it's like the portal creation thing. If yours had a better teleport too, that would be a much better argument to work with. But his portal creation is so slow. It's so sad.
He's just like, I'll just use Malphus's, and Malphus is just like, yes, I have the best
I mean, so like if we can
now.
argue that Urizen can get inside the barrier, then like he would probably beat Mundus consistently because again he could just teleport right next to Mundus and beat the shit out of him. Because again, like Mundus's close quarters they're not going to beat Urizen, especially
the big brain tactic of getting inside Urizen's armor. Teleports inside his armor.
I mean, well, we again like. So Mundus technically should be able to teleport, but it's like we never. Does he even ever actually teleport like at any point? Honestly,
honestly, I was just joking. Man. It'd be a more reliable strategy to say that he could use nightmares like black slimy like worms and send them inside the crevices in his armor.
Well, he could just always create those lava dragons, just like go inside the armor.
Or he could shoot the lava plumes underneath his feet. And just keep burning the spots inside his armor because the armor doesn't cover him completely. There are spots where it's like
no. I get it. Like I know what you're trying to say. It's just that like it's gonna protect him against like most generic energy attacks.
Yeah, Mundus is probably gonna look at it and be like, "That's pesky," but I can see some holes on that. Also, your face has like holes in it, so I'll just target the spots where it's like not covered.
You're gonna be dishonorable like that, Mundus. You're gonna hit me in the face.
Dishonorable Mundus? What?
How dare you, good sir? How dare you? Yeah, so this is gonna be a case of like, if you think Urizen can get in close to win the fight, then Urizen wins hands down. Because even without the fruit, his second form, that's more than enough to beat the shit out of Mundus in close range. Mundus's close range is terrible.
But if Mundus gets out of range. Even if the fight doesn't end quickly, Mundus will beat him in a war of attrition. He just has way better options in a range.
War of attrition? Only range, though. Like, so they both have their own strengths in their respective categories, but the strengths are so overwhelming. Yeah, so I'm gonna make sure people remember that.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that's everything on the table as far as... Yeah, I don't think there's too much else we can cover. Are you sure we didn't miss anything?
I don't think we missed anything, truth be told.
Alright.
Because we've covered everything. I guess there's one last thing we need to cover. Like, if the crystal can be used like the real Yamato, and we assume it's not just like, do you think that would make a difference?
Yes and no. So... we kind of have to factor in the fact that Mundus also knows what Yamato's powers are, and at one point he was also completely omniscient. So he technically would know what Yamato's true abilities are. So I don't know if like, even if we're considering DMC1 Mundus, he's still, we know from before the Nightmare, that he observed and surveillanced Dante and Virgil for most of their life and sent Angelos after them to gather combat data on him. So he literally has years of combat data on what Yamato can do.
I remember how well that worked. That worked out for him when he fought Sparta. You know, I remember that too.
mean, to be fair, Sparta probably dropped in and was like, "Bring me Mundus," and just like fucking bum rushed him. But I'm just gonna say, like, he has prep time knowledge of how Yamato already works, and he's seen the original one used under Sparta. So he actually has more knowledge of how Yamato works than most characters in the cast, even than Urizen. So I doubt if Urizen busts out Yamato, that's gonna make that much of a difference.
I mean, but like it'd probably be able to cut through the barrier, right? Like if you start slicing, it would probably cut Mundus through the barrier.
Yeah, but he'll just keep camping him. He'll just be like, I'll just make another one, or he'll just BFR, or he'll just be like yeet.
Yeah, so Mundus. So one of the things you guys are gonna be noticing here, because we're if everything turns out well, we'll be doing Argo Sax for sure and his forces, and then we'll
What
be dividing.
about Abigail?
Do you want to do Abigail first?
We got to get the easy one out of the way.
Do you want to do these? Do you want to do these in order? Okay, so we'll talk about that stuff later. But all right. So yeah, is there? I think that's about it. I don't really think there's anything else really to cover. Also, just to clarify, if we were talking real AP, Urizen stomps DMC1 Mundus completely. Prime Mundus might be a little debatable because Sparta keeps getting upgraded every single fucking game.
Honestly, like, Cerberus, you could probably make an argument that Cerberus could walk into a room with DMC1 Mundus and his generals and just, like, scream and they would die.
Yeah, the characters do get absurdly stronger as the series progresses. So just to be clear, in an actual, like, lore-accurate fight, Mundus or Urizen's side would slaughter Mundus's just through sheer AP alone.
Oh, yeah.
Alright. Well, so with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day, and I'll see you guys on the next stream or video.